Alright, everybody, it's time for a new game. I'm going to lead off with my queen's pawn. I'm going to try something if I can get into it. There's a slight variation of the opening that I've been playing. So I play this queen's gambit line, and alright, technically, this is not a gambit because my opponent didn't play, and I'm not technically gambiting anything. I'm setting up exactly as if I would for a queen's gambit. My opponent's going for a king's Indian defense. We've seen that one a lot. Now I'm going to kind of actually mirror this particular structure. This version here, where I'm going to put the light square bishop as a fianchetto, Italian for little flank. This is the, I want to make sure I'm saying it right, Catalan opening. I'm not 100% on the Catalan, but it's something that it's an idea I've been playing with, and I saw the name pop up, and I said, you know what, that's it. That's what I've been trying to do. So the idea is that on this center, as this center gets captured and exchanged, I've talked about in the couple previous videos, if you've seen them on my Queen's Gambit, I've been looking for an option where I capture instead of waiting for my opponent to capture. On those lines where I capture first, oh, this is interesting. So here's another, get too far ahead of myself. On the variations where I capture first, my bishop is no longer needed watching this. So if my bishop's no longer needed watching this, what if we fianchetto it and give my king some really good defensive squares, and then I can move this rook wherever the heck I want. The other thing it does is I'm no longer rushing to push my e-pawn, and I've been looking at variations on what happens when I push my e-pawn all the way up to e4. And a lot of those, I've been interested in it, but I didn't know how to proceed. The other thing it does is by developing this as quickly as we do without worrying about this, I now have time to get my dark square bishop out. So my dark square bishop is out. This knight is only defended. Now, granted, it's defended like this, but the knight is pinned, and my opponent's going for a really interesting pawn structure here. I wonder if he's going to push. Now that I've got my dark square bishop out, my knight is going to go here to d2 instead, because my knight is now going to be the one that's helping to defend this particular pawn. So these are the moves that I'm looking at. Knight to d2, queen to c2. That also defends here, but it gets my queen out from the back row. And then I'm also looking at e4. I don't have e4 defended yet, but that knight is pinned. All right, let's start with the knight move. Let's start with the knight move. I'm probably going to defend my pawns this way, and then that gives me access to this maybe. I'm not entirely certain. Yeah, okay, so my opponent now he's unpinned the knight. Okay, this is interesting. I have to think about this now, because my opponent has unpinned the knight and put a second attacker on this pawn, while at the same time, no, it's not a second attacker on the pawn. I'm sorry. There's one attacker on this pawn. I was thinking of the e4 square. I got a little confused there. Okay. So the e4 square is available still. He has it defended once. I've got it defended once. More importantly, my opponent has a double attack. So I have this defended. So let's go ahead and defend up our b pawn. So there's one attacker here, but it is defended. But I'm assuming my opponent's going to start looking to push one of these guys and put pressure on. And if that happens, then maybe I do go with just an e3 pawn push. So I popped out my little chess cards. It's been a while since these little playing cards I've got. It's a deck of cards with chess openings. And I want to see if that Catalan's in here. I should have looked at this. Yeah, look at that. Let's see if this will pop up. I don't know if it will. Hard to see. That camera's not focusing. That's what you get when you get a cheapy webcam. But there's the Catalan opening. It doesn't really tell us much other than the first couple of moves, so it's not really a training tool, but it's just kind of fun to have. Catalan is also the 10 of hearts. All right, so now that we've got our setup, a couple options here. Number one, I could be looking to trade off my dark square bishop. I should have done that. I wish I'd had an opportunity to do that now, but I'm looking for this. I think I'm going to go for the. I think I'm going for e4. I am sure there is a challenge that's about to happen here, right? Because my opponent's going to attack e4 again. If he does, I might just push past. Challenge this knight here. Granted, the knight's no longer pinned, so it's not that big of a deal. But my opponent decides to go for it first. Okay, so let me think. In this case, what do I want to do? So now there are two attackers here. If I eliminate here, my opponent can bring a third attacker to bear. Can I do anything about this? So the question is now, do I capture? Or do I push past? So those are my two options right now that I'm looking at. I cannot get another defender here. That's fine. I'm okay with that at this point in time. Do I push past or capture? So if I push past, there's 1-2 attackers already, but I have 1-2 defenders. That could open up the file. Let's push past. If I were to capture, then my opponent could capture back, and he has 1, 2, and I would have 1, 2. Let's just push past. Now, okay, now the question is, how am I taking back? Am I taking back this way? Yeah, let's take back that way, because now we're opening up this a little bit. And I'm going to put a rook here, I believe, and this other rook might even join. Well, this is semi-open, so maybe the rook is going to join this party here, so maybe I'll take these two files. But I think one of the common themes of the Catalan is a queenside attack. No, no. Maybe. And then putting double pressure here. Yes. Maybe. So this is where the queen comes in. So we got to take away this square. So the queen on c2, we knew that was an option anyway. And now if the rook comes around a party, yeah, I agree with my opponent here. We're both going to snag this open file. Capture. Ooh, okay. So my opponent is taking a very aggressive attacking point here. Let's see. Do I care at all right now? Do I care at all right now? What are the threats, friends? What are the threats? Because right now one of my candidate moves I'm thinking of is starting the attack on the queen side. It weakens this particular pawn, but I do have that pawn defended. But what is this guy trying to do? It's not pinned. I've got it sufficiently defended. So let's just go ahead and start our attack on the queen side. So the Queen's Gambit and the variations of the Queen's Gambit that could arise, I've been trying to reread and re-look at some of the theory so that I can that's kind of how I learn, right? I just throw myself into it, see where it takes me, and then from there, I kind of step back and read theory again, and then I throw myself in and try to apply that. So I try to like layer on, and knowing that my first pass at something is going to be real rough. But my first pass at learning something is going to be real rough. But if I just try to study, if I just try to like get book knowledge, it doesn't solidify. Like I can't quite picture it until I get in there and I see what the challenges are, right? See where the shortcomings are. Um, I'm scanning my board at the same time. I'm trying to do too many things at once. So learning the Queen's Gambit, um, I knew that my first few games were bad, and they were. And I got better as I kind of learned the position and learned how things go. But now I'm going back to those original videos that I studied, and I'm looking at them again and trying to understand the subtleties that the teacher is trying to share, right? Instead of just taking their word for it, which is good for learning the positions, but because the games develop beyond what they try to teach you, right? You can't. There's nobody. Oh, that was a mistake. I was supposed to bring the rook over first. Well, that was a dumb thing to do, Joe. I'm just gonna do this. Pretend like that was intentional, right? Ooh, I totally meant to do that. Totally meant to do that. So I just threw away a pawn. I threw away a strong part of my connected pawns over here on the queen side that was going to go up the board. So anyway, so I've gone back to some of these videos that I've been studying, and one of the things that keeps coming up is this concept of the queen side attack, right? The queen's gambit and the queen side attack. The queen's gambit and the queen side attack. So I'm looking at this pawn. I know it's defended, but I'm just going to eye it up. This file is semi-open. Yeah, my opponent's now I can't push this pawn because it's doubly attacked. I mean, it would be doubly attacked. So I have to decide what I want to do with this particular arrangement. All right, I have screwed up, so I need to go back. That's what I should have done earlier. Okay. All right, we go back. You hate to go back, but you have to admit when you made a mistake. So I just completely lost a tempo and a pawn. My thought process was, honestly, this is my thought process, is I know that that's defended, but if the knight came over to grab the pawn, then that gives me access to this pawn. So I was kind of debating on that process and getting my rook along the 7th row. So he has this attacked twice, 3 times. Oof. But this does give me access to this square. And then we can reroute our knight. No, we can't. So I could take here, get this guy out, and then that's still 1, 2 defenders, and I have 3 attackers. So let's start here. One of our tactics is, right, eliminating the defender. We knew that dark square bishop was a bad piece for us. That's one of the theories, is that dark square bishop is a bad piece. The light square bishop is a strong piece. But now there's 1, 2 defenders. Can I take? I could drop this at the end of the day, so I have to be careful. Oh, no, bad. I'm going to start here. This puts pressure on the queen. My opponent's just going to capture here. But that gives me a passed pawn before I take back. So now I have done a big doo-doo. That's part of the reason I started playing that chess 960 was to try to make myself look longer, right? Look at the board as a whole. But, you know, this is another challenge of learning a new system, right? So now this knight can go here. Yeah, that's what I was looking at. So my opponent's got 2 attackers here, and I only have 1 defender on it. The question is, can I do anything where I defend and attack at the same time? Can we defend and attack at the same time? And the answer is no. Move my queen to a dark square. Defend here. Whoopsie. Well, you know, that happens. That definitely happens, and that is not something that you want to see happen. And this is about to become a major disaster. So we've lost this game. The game's over. I have very little options here at this point. Yep. Ah, phooey. Well, that's it. Game over, everyone. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. Well, it happens. So anyway, let's go back to the beginning, and we'll talk about... So this will be checkmate here. Oh. GG. So let's go back to the beginning real quick, and let's talk about the opening, because this is something I'm trying to learn, right? So I know I'm going to lose some games, right? It happens. I'm mad that I lost a game because of not paying attention. But this is it should be a pretty standard. So that my opponent's playing a King's Indian. We've seen this before. This is a very standard response. It's very flexible, the King's Indian. I don't know enough about it to talk about it, but it's just very flexible. And the idea is you're using your long-range pieces to control the center, allowing white to push pawns, and you're getting your stronger stuff out. That's kind of the idea. When you castle, everything's nice and defended. It's basically making some strong moves early. Here's where we switch into what's known as the Catalan, and you can see it's not even it's not even showing up on the move order, because technically it's only the Catalan if your opponent goes for the Queen's Gambit. In this case, we never did, so it's not the actual Catalan. But you can see this type of variation has been played a ton. We're still at over 170,000 games that are being played in these situations. So here's the first time my opponent made a funny move that I didn't understand. When he lined up his pawns there. Normal moves are the other knight, get the other knight involved. C5 and C6, looks like. Yeah, I don't quite understand C6, but C5 is there. Either way, my opponent went for this E6 move, and like I said, I didn't quite understand. I probably should have. If I look at the engine probably going to tell me to push. Nope. The engine is happy with me just continuing to develop. Oh, which should we do? But the engine wants me to go bishop b4, and I went bishop g5. So the engine wants me to stop here, and I went all the way up, knowing that that we're pinning the knight. So that's what I went for. We're still technically in book. Man, knight c3 would have been a better move. The reason I didn't go knight c3 is I was considering, almost always considering dumping my knight over here on d2. And I guess realistically I don't have to, because there is no pawn here challenging my pawn. So I don't have to defend that pawn. And in fact, because it's not gambiting, right, I never gambited it, there's still no threat to this pawn whatsoever. So I don't really need to defend it. So knight to d2 is not that necessary. And if we look at the board, my opponent has just closed in his light square bishop, so he's not going to be pinning this guy anytime soon. And I have this guy sufficiently defended anyway. So maybe it would be better to put the knight on c3. And if I look at the games, yeah, that's the most common move by far. So this was where we kind of shifted off book a little here. And then from here, we shift down to very few games. There's 2 games here. h6 was played, so my opponent's queen out is where we're completely out of book. There are no games. This is a brand new game. A brand new game. But the structure I was looking for, if I back up just a little bit, the Catalan structure is this. These guys, the knight, the bishop, fianchettoed, and then castled. This e-pawn could go to either e3. We can go to e3 or to e4. Depending on the situation. In my game, I went to e4 because I was trying to attack this knight. But this pawn can basically go here, and now you're really taking control of the center. So that's kind of the idea behind this system. Plus, we look at our long-range pieces also controlling. And the main idea of the Catalan is this bishop. The light square bishop is the main tool that you are looking to exploit whenever possible. This long diagonal, this strong bishop, instead of the bishop kind of getting tied up in this pawn game, you move the bishop onto this long diagonal and just give it space, right? You give this bishop the most powerful diagonal in the game, right? Black is doing the same thing with the King's Indian, giving his bishop the most powerful diagonal in the game. I never did get to use that. That diagonal never opened up for me in this particular game, and my opponent's pawn moves here. Kind of a Slav-like game. I should have been looking to kind of bust open the center a little faster, I think. But yeah, both my bishops are out. Yeah, I could see how maybe leaving it here would be good, because if you push e3 or e4, you're still outside the pawn chain, and you are eyeing up the queen side. And yeah, I made some mistakes. I should have. This is one of the threats, is I have to get this rook off of this diagonal. So whenever you see your opponent playing the King's Indian, definitely look at getting your rook off of this diagonal. There is that threat always hovering there, and I forgot about it. And you can see my opponent absolutely looking to bust this open. And his game plan, essentially, from there, you can see his game plan is all about, has completely shifted over to this e-file in order to start looking at pushing this you know, he got his knight moved out of the way and then just completely opened this up. At this point in time, I would have liked to have been able to, right here, I think I should have, well, no, I can't. Yeah, my opponent had to get this bishop out. If he didn't get this bishop out, I had some thoughts of this knight, right? If I could slide this knight here. I don't know. Let me try a dumb move for my opponent. See, I was thinking something like this because the pawn is pinned, because I can take that. Oh, no, it's not. He can take back. Okay, never mind. Never mind, never mind, never mind. Yeah, that's what I was looking at, and yeah, I forgot the knight was able to defend. I was looking at this rook is undefended, right? His rooks are not connected. But it's okay. So he got his... what's the threat here? I don't see the threat. Yeah, this would have been a better stopping spot, I thought. All right, so I screwed up here. This is where things went bad for me, and you can see the evaluation. Ooh. Oh, right, because I took away my escape square for my knight. If he had gone here, where do I go with the queen? Why can't I go here? Yeah, the threat is always just taking... Oh, right, because this is a major threat because it's a double attack, 1 and 2. That would be a problem. So, yeah, I guess we both kind of missed that. But yeah, this was a bad move on my part. Just... I wanted to start the queen's attack, but should have done something like this first. And then, actually, what I should have done is I should have lined my rook up with my opponent's queen. I mean, that's a pretty standard move, right? Either get my rook all the way over and then look at busting open from here, or put my rook underneath my opponent's queen. Yeah, you can see here. And going back, this was such a disaster going back. And I have 100% given my opponent a double attack. So this did not work the way I wanted it to. I was so focused on trying to capture this pawn. See, you can go for a sacrifice there, and then that's still undefended, yeah. Oh, well. This was a rough one for me, guys, and from here the game just fell apart. I got my wish, right? I got my wish. I got my pawn. But I could have... yeah. This, you can just see the evaluation here is absolutely destroyed, because I've given my opponent a double attack and did not see it. Boom. Yeah, at least the move I made here was the best variation. Not really, though. See, I saw that I had the rook defended, but I need that rook to pick up this piece. And now my opponent would be up, let's see here, 2 bishops and a rook to 2 pieces and no rook. Okay, so my opponent's up a full rook here. I don't think I can trap that bishop. So my opponent's up a full rook. Yeah, that would be rough. Or at least doing it the way by my opponent capturing back, I was able to only be down a little bit. And then from here, yeah, it was a dumb move. I was concerned about defending the knight, and yes, I can defend the knight, but then my opponent brings the rook into play. Yeah, that wouldn't work either. You can look at doubling up here. Okay, well, anyway, that was the end of that game, guys. I'm going to try for some more to see if I can play this Catalan and play it a little bit and kind of learn it, just like we did with the Queen's Gambit. But I'm going to try to see if I can develop some better positions, right? Knowing that I have to watch out for this dark square bishop. The King's Indian, this is the reason they play the King's Indian is because this dark square bishop becomes really strong along this diagonal. The reason we play the Catalan is because that bishop gets really strong. So my dark square bishop, if there is a way that maybe I could trade it off, right? Maybe do something like get up here, maybe put my queen get up to here, pin the knight that we did, get the queen involved, and then just move the bishop here and trade off the dark square bishops. That could be a really good thing. So maybe we'll try something like that. Maybe we'll try not dropping a rook, and for sure we'll try not dropping a queen. All right, guys, this was a fun one. I'll catch you next time. Bye.